Tokyo, Japan, October 15, 2019. At exactly 11:47 p.m., a woman walked onto Platform 9 of Tokyo Station's Marunouchi line and vanished. Not onto a train, not into the crowd. She simply ceased to exist in the span of 3 seconds, captured by 17 different security cameras from 17 different angles, all of which showed the exact same impossible thing. She walked forward and disappeared mid-step, as though she'd walked through a door that only she could see. Her name was Keiko Tanaka, age 32, a software engineer returning home from a late meeting. She was the 7th person to vanish from Tokyo Station in exactly the same way over the past 14 months, and she would not be the last. Within 6 months, the disappearances would trigger an investigation that would involve quantum physicists, transit engineers, a retired detective with an obsession for impossible crimes, and a discovery so unsettling that the Japanese government would classify the findings for national security reasons. What they found beneath Platform 9 would challenge everything we understand about time, space, and the hidden infrastructure of one of the world's busiest transit hubs. Before we descend into one of the most baffling mysteries in modern urban history, make sure you're subscribed to this channel and hit that notification bell. This story will take you from the gleaming platforms of Tokyo Station into forgotten tunnels that don't appear on any official map, from security footage that defies explanation to scientific theories that sound like science fiction but might be terrifying fact. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from and whether you've ever experienced something inexplicable in a subway or train station. The story of the Tokyo Station disappearances begins not in 2019, but 14 months earlier in August 2018 with a man named Hiroshi Yamamoto. Hiroshi was 28 years old, a junior accountant at a mid-sized financial firm in Chiyoda. He was unremarkable in every way that matters for this story, except for one detail: he was obsessively punctual. His colleagues joked that you could set your watch by Hiroshi's schedule. He arrived at the office at 8:15 a.m. every morning, took lunch at exactly 12 p.m., and departed at 6:30 p.m. to catch the 6:47 train home. On August 12, 2018, Hiroshi left his office at 6:30 p.m. as always. Security footage from his building shows him walking out the front entrance, briefcase in hand, heading toward Tokyo Station 3 blocks away. He sent a text message to his wife at 6:42 p.m. "On my way, home by 7:30. He never arrived home. His wife, Yuki, called his phone at 8 p.m. It went straight to voicemail. By 9 p.m., she was worried enough to call the police. By midnight, she was filing a missing persons report. The investigation into Hiroshi's disappearance seemed straightforward at first. Police traced his route from his office to Tokyo Station using security camera footage from surrounding buildings and street cameras. They confirmed he entered Tokyo Station's main entrance at 6:44 p.m. Then, something strange happened in the footage. Hiroshi walked through the main concourse, past the ticket gates, down the escalator to the Marunouchi line platforms. Multiple cameras tracked his progress. He arrived at Platform 9 at 6:46 p.m., 1 minute before his usual train was scheduled to arrive. The platform was moderately crowded, perhaps 40 people waiting for various trains. Hiroshi stood in his usual spot near the center of the platform, briefcase at his side, checking his phone. At 6:47:23 p.m., according to the timestamp on the security footage, Hiroshi looked up from his phone. He appeared to notice something to his left, though no other passengers showed any reaction. He took 3 steps forward, toward the edge of the platform, but not onto the tracks. And then, between one frame and the next, he was gone. The detective reviewing the footage, a veteran investigator named Takeshi Sato, watched the sequence 73 times. He checked the camera's timestamp, verified there was no gap in the recording, examined every frame in slow motion. The conclusion was inescapable and impossible. Hiroshi Yamamoto had not fallen onto the tracks. He had not boarded a train. The next train didn't arrive for another 47 seconds. He had not walked away in any direction. He simply vanished, as though he'd been edited out of reality itself. Detective Sato requested footage from every camera with a view of Platform 9, 17 different cameras covering every angle. All 17 showed the same thing. Hiroshi took 3 steps forward and ceased to exist. The case was classified as an unexplained disappearance and remained open but inactive. There was no body, no evidence of foul play, no logical explanation. Hiroshi's wife received insurance payouts after the standard waiting period. His desk at work was cleared. Life moved on, as it always does, even when confronted with the inexplicable. Except Detective Sato couldn't move on. He was 3 years from retirement, and in 32 years on the force, he'd never encountered anything like this. The impossibility of it gnawed at him. He began visiting Tokyo Station during his off hours, standing on Platform 9, watching trains come and go, trying to understand what he'd seen on that footage. He found nothing. Platform 9 was just a platform. Concrete, tiles, yellow safety lines, electronic signs displaying arrival times. Thousands of people used it every day without incident. But Takeshi Sato had been a detective long enough to trust his instincts. Something was wrong with Platform 9. He just couldn't articulate what. 3 months after Hiroshi Yamamoto's disappearance, in November 2018, a college student named Akiko Suzuki vanished from the exact same location. Akiko was 21, studying biochemistry at Tokyo University. She was heading home after an evening study session at the library. Security footage showed her entering Tokyo Station at 10:23 p.m., making her way to Platform 9, standing near the center of the platform. At 10:31:17 p.m., she looked up from her phone. She appeared startled, took 2 steps forward, and vanished, exactly as Hiroshi had. This time, Detective Sato was called immediately. He reviewed the footage while it was still being downloaded from the security system. When he saw Akiko disappear, he felt vindication mixed with dread. This wasn't a one-time technical glitch or inexplicable accident. Something was happening on Platform 9. He escalated the case to his superiors, requesting a full investigation of Tokyo Station's infrastructure. Initially, he was met with skepticism. 2 disappearances in 3 months was unusual but not unprecedented in a city of nearly 14 million people. People went missing for all sorts of reasons. But Sato was insistent. He had footage, 17 cameras showing the impossible. His superiors agreed to a limited investigation, more to appease him than because they believed something genuinely anomalous was occurring. A team of structural engineers was brought in to examine Platform 9. They found nothing unusual. The platform was solid, well-maintained, built to the same specifications as every other platform in the station. There were no hidden doors, no gaps in the flooring, no structural anomalies. A team of technicians examined the security camera system. They found no evidence of tampering, no gaps in the recordings, no explanation for what the footage showed. The investigation concluded that while the disappearances were unexplained, there was no evidence of foul play or infrastructure failure. The cases remained open but inactive. Except they didn't remain inactive for long. In January 2019, a businessman named Kento Nakamura vanished from Platform 9 at 7:14 a.m. In March, a high school teacher named Yuki Ito disappeared at 9:52 p.m. In June, a delivery driver named Daichi Kobayashi vanished at 6:33 a.m. All from the exact same location on Platform 9, all in the same impossible way, captured on the same 17 cameras, walking forward and ceasing to exist mid-step. By the summer of 2019, Detective Sato had compiled a detailed analysis of the disappearances. 5 people, ranging in age from 21 to 54, 3 men, 2 women, different professions, different backgrounds, no apparent connection between them. The only commonalities were, all disappeared from Platform 9 of Tokyo Station.
All disappeared from approximately the same spot on the platform. All appeared to see or notice something immediately before vanishing. All took 2 to 3 steps forward before disappearing. All vanished between frames of multiple security cameras. Sato presented his analysis to his superiors again, this time with a more urgent request. Something was happening on Platform 9. They needed to shut it down, investigate thoroughly, figure out what was causing people to vanish. His request was denied. Tokyo Station handled over 3,000 trains per day, serving nearly 500,000 passengers. Closing an entire platform based on 5 unexplained disappearances would cause massive disruption. The decision came from high up in the transit authority, and probably higher still, Platform 9 would remain operational. But Sato's persistence had attracted attention from an unexpected source. Dr. Kenji Matsuda was a theoretical physicist at the University of Tokyo, specializing in quantum mechanics and space-time theory. He'd read about the disappearances in a newspaper article that treated them as an urban mystery, the kind of story that fills column inches between real news. The article had been skeptical, suggesting the disappearances were probably runaways or people who'd chosen to vanish for personal reasons. But something in the article caught Dr. Matsuda's attention: the detail about security footage showing people vanishing between frames from multiple angles simultaneously. That wasn't consistent with any conventional explanation. If someone had fallen, jumped, or walked away, the cameras would have captured it. The only way all 17 cameras could fail to capture movement is if the movement itself had somehow bypassed normal space-time. Dr. Matsuda reached out to Detective Sato through official channels, offering his expertise as a consultant. Sato, desperate for any new perspective, agreed immediately. They met at a coffee shop near Tokyo Station in July 2019. Sato showed Dr. Matsuda the security footage on his laptop. The physicist watched in silence as Hiroshi Yamamoto took 3 steps and vanished. Then he watched Akiko Suzuki do the same, then the other 3 victims. When the footage ended, Dr. Matsuda was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he said, "Do you know what this reminds me of? Have you heard of quantum tunneling?" Sato shook his head. In quantum mechanics, particles can sometimes pass through barriers that classical physics says they shouldn't be able to penetrate. They don't go over or around the barrier, they simply appear on the other side, as though they'd tunneled through reality itself. It's called quantum tunneling.
And it's well documented at the subatomic level. But these are people, Sato said, not particles. Exactly. People are macroscopic objects. Quantum effects shouldn't apply at that scale. But what if something about Platform 9 is creating conditions where they do? What if there's some kind of anomaly in space-time at that specific location? It sounded like science fiction, but Sato had watched 5 people vanish into nothing. Science fiction was starting to seem more plausible than any conventional explanation. How would we test this? Sato asked. We'd need equipment, sensitive instruments that can detect unusual energy readings, electromagnetic anomalies, anything that might indicate space-time is behaving strangely. And we'd need access to Platform 9 during off hours. I can arrange that, Sato said. He'd been a detective for 3 decades. He knew how to work within bureaucracies to get what he needed, even when official channels were blocked. 2 weeks later, at 2 a.m. on July 28, 2019, Detective Sato and Dr. Matsuda stood on Platform 9 with a collection of scientific instruments. The platform was empty. Trains had stopped running an hour earlier. They had until 5 a.m. when the first maintenance workers would arrive. Dr. Matsuda set up his equipment near the center of the platform, the spot where all 5 victims had vanished. He had electromagnetic field detectors, gravitational sensors, equipment that could measure minute variations in space-time itself if such variations existed. For the first hour, the readings were completely normal. Platform 9 registered the same background radiation, electromagnetic fields, and gravitational consistency as any other location in Tokyo. Then, at 3:47 a.m., something changed. Dr. Matsuda's electromagnetic field detector started showing unusual readings. The field strength was fluctuating in ways that made no physical sense, spiking and dropping without any apparent cause. "Do you see this?" Dr. Matsuda said, excitement in his voice. "The electromagnetic field is behaving erratically. And look," he pointed to another instrument, "the gravitational readings are off too, very slightly but measurably. It's as though space-time is rippling." "Is that what caused the disappearances?" Sato asked. "I don't know, but it's definitely anomalous. This shouldn't be happening in a subway platform." They continued taking readings for another hour. The anomalies persisted, fluctuating but never disappearing entirely. Dr. Matsuda documented everything meticulously, taking notes, recording data, trying to establish patterns. At 4:30 a.m., as they were preparing to pack up before the maintenance crew arrived, Dr. Matsuda noticed something else. His equipment showed a spike in readings toward the far end of the platform, near the wall. They walked over to investigate. The wall looked ordinary, standard subway tile work, nothing visually unusual, but Dr. Matsuda's instruments were going haywire near this specific section of wall. "There's something behind here," he said. "The readings suggest empty space where there shouldn't be any." Sato examined the wall more carefully. He'd spent enough time investigating crime scenes to notice small details others missed, and now that he looked closely, he saw something. The grout between certain tiles was a slightly different color, as though this section had been repaired or replaced more recently than the surrounding wall. He pressed on the tiles experimentally. Most were solid, but one, when he pushed on it, gave slightly. He pushed harder, and with a soft click, a section of the wall swung inward, revealing a narrow doorway. Behind the doorway was darkness. Dr. Matsuda and Detective Sato looked at each other. Neither man was particularly reckless, but they'd come this far. Sato pulled out his flashlight and shined it through the doorway. Beyond was a tunnel. Not an official maintenance tunnel, Sato knew what those looked like. This was something else. The walls were older, brick instead of concrete, covered in decades of dust and grime. The tunnel stretched into darkness, sloping downward. "This isn't on any station map," Sato said. "I've reviewed every blueprint of Tokyo Station. This tunnel doesn't exist officially." "But it exists," Dr. Matsuda replied, "and my instruments are showing massive anomalies coming from inside. Whatever's causing the disappearances, I think it's down there." They should have called for backup. They should have reported their discovery immediately, but both men knew that official channels would slow everything down, possibly shut down the investigation entirely. They had a few hours before anyone would miss them. They entered the tunnel. The descent was gradual at first, the tunnel sloping gently downward. The air grew colder as they went deeper, and there was a smell, not quite decay, but something organic and old, like earth that hadn't been disturbed in a very long time. Dr. Matsuda's equipment continued to show increasingly unusual readings. The electromagnetic field was fluctuating wildly now, and his gravitational sensors suggested they were walking through space where the normal rules of physics were somehow bent. After about 10 minutes of walking, they reached a wider chamber. Sato's flashlight played across the space, revealing something that made both men stop in their tracks. The chamber was circular, maybe 20 feet in diameter, with a high ceiling that disappeared into darkness. The walls were covered in what looked like mathematical equations, carved or scratched into the stone, and in the center of the chamber was a structure unlike anything either man had ever seen. It was roughly cylindrical, about 6 feet tall and 3 feet in diameter, made of what looked like metal, but with a surface that seemed to shift and shimmer in the flashlight beam, as though it wasn't quite solid. The structure hummed with a low vibration they could feel in their bones more than hear. "What is that?" Sato whispered. Dr. Matsuda approached carefully, his instruments held out. The readings were off the scale now, showing energy levels and gravitational distortions that shouldn't be possible. "I don't know," the physicist said, "but it's generating the anomalies we detected upstairs. This thing is creating localized distortions in space-time." He walked slowly around the structure, examining it from different angles. On one side, there looked like a control panel, covered in symbols that were definitely not Japanese, and probably not any modern language. "This is old," Dr. Matsuda said. "Look at the wear patterns on the floor, the age of the brick.
This chamber has been here for a very long time, longer than Tokyo Station itself. Then what is it doing here? Sato asked. Who built it? Before Dr. Matsuda could answer, something happened. The structure's hum changed pitch, rising from a low vibration to a higher frequency. The shimmer on its surface intensified, and suddenly the air in the chamber seemed to ripple, like heat distortion, but more pronounced. Dr. Matsuda's instruments went haywire. "The space-time distortion is intensifying! We need to—" He didn't finish the sentence. From somewhere above them, from the direction of Platform 9, they heard a scream. A woman's scream, cut short almost immediately. Sato and Matsuda ran back toward the tunnel entrance. They raced up the slope, emerging onto Platform 9 just as the first early morning maintenance workers were arriving. One of the workers, a woman named Sachiko, was staring at the spot near the center of the platform, her face pale with shock. "What happened?" Sato demanded. "There was a woman," Sachiko stammered. "She was just standing there. I called out to ask what she was doing on the platform during maintenance hours, and she looked at me and then she walked forward and disappeared, just vanished. I don't understand." Sato and Dr. Matsuda exchanged looks, the sixth disappearance, and they'd been right underneath when it happened. "The structure," Dr. Matsuda said quietly. "It activated somehow. The increased energy output must have created a stronger space-time distortion up here. That's what the victims are walking into. They're seeing something, some kind of threshold or doorway that appears because of the distortion, and when they step through—" "Where do they go?" Sato asked. "I don't know, but based on what we just saw down there, I don't think they're dying or being transported elsewhere in any conventional sense. I think they're being displaced, moved to somewhere or somewhen else." The implications were staggering. Sato wanted to dismiss it as impossible, but he'd just seen the evidence with his own eyes. The hidden chamber, the impossible structure, the woman vanishing exactly as the structure activated. "We need to report this," Sato said, "immediately. This has to go to the highest levels." They did report it. The investigation that followed involved engineers, physicists, military personnel, and government officials at levels Sato had never dealt with before. The hidden chamber was sealed off, the structure examined by teams of specialists who signed multiple non-disclosure agreements. What they found was classified almost immediately. The structure, according to the reports that Sato was allowed to see before classification, was not human in origin. Its materials included elements that didn't match anything in Earth's periodic table. Its technology operated on principles that contradicted known physics. The equations carved in the chamber walls were eventually partially decoded. They appeared to be describing space-time manipulation, methods of creating controlled wormholes or portals between different points in space or possibly time. The structure had apparently been there for centuries, predating Tokyo Station by hundreds of years. How it came to be buried beneath what would eventually become one of Tokyo's busiest transit hubs was unknown. Who built it was unknown. What its purpose was remained speculative. What was clear was that it had been inactive for most of its existence, but had somehow reactivated in August 2018. The reactivation created periodic space-time distortions that manifested on Platform 9 above. These distortions appeared as thresholds or doorways to anyone standing in the right spot at the right moment, hence why the victims had seemed to see something before walking forward and vanishing. Where the victims went remained one of the investigation's greatest mysteries. The prevailing theory was that they'd been transported to wherever or whenever the portal led. Whether they were still alive, whether they could ever be retrieved, whether they even still exist in any meaningful sense, no one could say with certainty. In December 2019, the structure was carefully dismantled and removed to an undisclosed location for further study. The chamber beneath Platform 9 was filled with concrete and sealed permanently. Platform 9 itself was renovated, the entire surface area replaced. No one has disappeared from Tokyo Station since. Detective Takeshi Sato retired in March 2020, having seen things in his final years on the force that challenged every assumption he'd held about the nature of reality. He never spoke publicly about the case, bound by the non-disclosure agreements he'd signed, but he kept copies of everything: reports, footage, photographs of the chamber and the structure hidden away where they could be found if anything similar ever happened again. Dr. Kenji Matsuda continued his work in theoretical physics, but his research took on a new focus after the Tokyo Station case. He became one of the world's leading experts on theoretical wormholes and space-time manipulation. Though he could never publish the data that sparked his interest, the classified measurements and observations from a chamber that, officially, doesn't exist. The families of the 6 disappeared individuals, Hiroshi Yamamoto, Akiko Suzuki, Kento Nakamura, Yuki Ito, Daichi Kobayashi, and Keiko Tanaka, never received complete answers about what happened to their loved ones. The official conclusion was that they'd gone missing in Tokyo Station under unexplained circumstances.
Their cases remaining technically open, but with no active investigation. In 2021, a researcher going through classified documents from World War II found a curious file. It detailed an incident in 1943 when Tokyo Station was being used as a military transportation hub. 3 soldiers had reportedly vanished from what was then a storage area before their disappearance. The incident had been classified by wartime military authorities and forgotten. How long had the structure been active? How many people had it taken over the centuries that had been buried beneath Tokyo? How many disappearances throughout history had been attributed to other causes, runaways, suicides, abductions, when in reality people had simply walked through doorways that shouldn't exist? These questions may never be answered. What we do know is that beneath one of the world's busiest and most modern transit stations, there was something that predated human civilization, something that operated on principles we barely understand, something that could reach through the fabric of space-time and pluck people from our reality into somewhere else. The structure is gone now. Platform 9 is safe. Millions of commuters pass through Tokyo Station every year, completely unaware that they're walking above the site of one of the most baffling mysteries in modern history. But sometimes, late at night, maintenance workers in the deeper tunnels of Tokyo Station report hearing things, a low hum that seems to come from beneath the floor, a feeling of displacement as though space itself is slightly wrong, glimpses of light where no light source exists. The structure may be gone, but perhaps it left something behind. Or perhaps there are other structures, other chambers, buried beneath other cities, waiting to activate, waiting to open doorways to places we can't imagine. The Tokyo Station time paradox remains officially unexplained. But for those who know the truth, for those who've seen the footage and the evidence, it serves as a reminder that reality is more fragile than we like to believe, and that some doorways, once opened, can never truly be closed. What do you think happened to the 6 people who vanished? Where did they go? Are they still alive somewhere, somewhen, trapped in a place beyond our understanding? Or did they simply cease to exist, erased from reality by forces we can't comprehend? Drop your theories in the comments below. If this story of impossible disappearances and hidden mysteries beneath Tokyo fascinated you, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Hit that notification bell because we're bringing you more stories that explore the boundaries between the known and the unknown, the documented and the unexplained, the world we think we understand, and the mysteries that lurk just beneath the surface. Share this video with someone who loves unsolved mysteries, urban legends, or tales of the impossible made real. These stories deserve to be told. These mysteries deserve to be remembered, even when official channels try to classify and forget them. Until next time, remember that the world is stranger than we imagine, and sometimes the most terrifying mysteries are the ones hiding in plain sight beneath the places we walk every single day, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. The Tokyo Station time paradox remains officially unexplained, but for those who know the truth, for those who've seen the footage and the evidence, it serves as a reminder that reality is more fragile than we like to believe, and that some doorways, once opened, can never truly be closed.